Just waiting for the puppets.
Come on, make it next.
Okay, folks, 7 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call. Jane?
Here.
Bren?
Here.
My
name's Stacy.
Stacy?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Jeannie?
Here.
We're all here and accounted for. Thank you, everyone. Mike, notice the meeting? Was it properly noticed?
The meeting was properly noticed.
I'd like to ask someone to to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Do we adopt it as is, or are we going to make the...
We have to
I'd like to make a motion
adopt,
to
amend
the agenda.
Amend and then adopt? Let's make amendment first.
My motion is to move the personnel issues up to the beginning of our agenda. Second.
All those in favor?
Did you want to move it? We
We're
talked
talking
about
about
moving
moving
it
to
just
the-
after item 3,
Item, I love that part, yeah.
right before salute. So it'll now become item 4.
Larry, does your second still apply?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Let's take a vote. For all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes 7-0. So that'll be the third item of conversation tonight. Let's
Motion
stop.
to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Second.
Let's take a vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Now we've approved the amended agenda. Thank you, Brian, for the procedure item there. Let's do Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. We're going to start tonight with our PTO organization. We have Melissa and Katie here to present to us. Anything you want to start with here, Mike?
Come on to the microphone. Just want to welcome you both. The PTO has been such a tremendous partner for the district, and we've already had the opportunity administratively to sit down with the PTO board and hear some of the great things that they're doing in terms of fundraising, and they're here tonight to give us their annual report. So welcome.
Thanks for the intro. Hi, everybody. So I wanted to start with this slide. I think last year when we came to speak to you guys, we talked about how over the summer we were going to be doing a mission workshop and really fine-tuning our mission. So starting this year was the first year of our new mission, which, as you can see up there, is connecting our schools, families, and community by creating opportunities to strengthen student educational and social experiences. We thought that this really narrowed down what our goals are, and we've tried with everything we've done this year to put our mission front and center and really be mission-driven in our fundraising and our events and activities. So we're going to give you guys a brief recap of what we've done, how we've raised money, how we've supported our mission throughout the year, and then what we kind of see coming up next. So what we have done. Katie?
When you look at the full year, we had a busy calendar year. We had over $23,000 that we gave in grant money to support all the teachers, and teachers and students this year were able to apply for grants. So there were some really cool different things that were done that we're going to show you close-up pictures of. We were able to do our ice cream social this year and kick it off, and next year we're looking forward to an even bigger and better one. We had Santa come and visit outside, and then we incorporated mod pizza nights where parents could come, and there was a percentage that was donated back to us. It went so well the first time that they asked us to do 2 nights to help spread it out a little bit. And then towards the end of it, we started being able to bring it back to 1 night. And then on top of that, we've been able to do our fundraisers for the Pewaukee Museum, Public Museum, and fund all of the students to be able to go on field trips again. We'll touch base a little bit on Raise Craze and our Teacher Appreciation Week too.
So kind of some of the things Katie touched on, we have had our big fundraiser, Raise Craze, added Mod Night, new this year. Stuck with Culver's, they've been such an awesome supporter on Grandview. we are still doing box tops, and then Amazon Smiles continued to kill it in the fundraising department. So thanks for all those purchases. I think our family's like a good third of them, but and then also Coca-Cola Gives has brought in, and that's Julie in the PLE office. I mean, she comes with bags of soda can tops, so we thank her for that. So our fundraising at a glance, our yearly fundraising activities. Wow, was that small, Katie?
Directories.
Sorry.
Some things we plan on being a fundraiser, and some things we just coherently make a little bit of money. We try to at least break even. So directories this year, we did raise a little bit of funding with that, which goes right back to the students and the grant money and everything else that we provide the schools. The Amazon Smile, as Melissa said, it really outpaced some of the other box tops and Coca-Cola Gives. But
Yeah, year to date, we're at $1,133 from Amazon Smile, which is just, I mean, we don't have to do anything for that money, so it's an awesome thing to bring in.
And then Culver's continues to be a great partnership, and the Mod Pizza was super easy to work with. Getting more community involvement and community businesses to participate in the fundraising was important to us, and I think that they proved to be a great partnership as well.
Yes. So Raise Craze, this is kind of our big fundraise with a purpose. Previous years for fundraising, the PTO has advertised program enhancements as the reason for their fundraising. We wanted to try to be really specific this year. We wanted parents to have an idea of what the funds that they were donating was going to. And we think that helped with not only the parents, but also with our middle school. So for PLE, you can see that picture on the left up there. That is a sketch of the potential PLE library. So we were hoping to raise money for that and a couple other projects at PLE. The middle school, especially the 8th graders, were looking to raise money for their 8th grade promotion. They wanted pizza and a DJ at it. So that really got them going. And then Horizon wanted to raise money for some of their field trips, their river run, the museum field trip, and just really specifically having those ideas seemed to help a lot.
When we look at Raise Craze, the right side shows you exactly how many participants we had. Across the schools, it was 73 or 75%? 75% participation, which is tremendous. 75% of the students between PLE, Horizon, and ASA signed up and just registered, which was the first step. Way better than what we had in years previous. From there, when we look at the funding, we raised over $100,000. There were some additional things that had to come out when money went straight back to into the classrooms if the students and the teachers raised a certain amount or hit their bingo cards. There's bingo cards that were for the classrooms to actually like achieve some goals. And the first one was just to participate. And then from there, if they did, they had other things that they could attain, like a Culver's ice cream token, and there was fidget toys,
Recess,
free recess, or the teachers got to leave a little early. Everyone got creative on how we could encourage everyone to participate. So when we look at the funds, 22% of that came from ASA, which is more than we've ever seen before from participation from the middle school. It was awesome. Horizon, we had 30% of the funds, and PLE had 48% coming in.
So one thing we did different this year with Raise Craze was instead of making individual goals for the kids in order to kind of build on that community aspect, we did classroom goals. So if the classroom achieved this one thing, everyone in the classroom got a prize. If the classroom achieved something else, they all received a prize for it. So we thought that really helped to not only build community, but take some of that individual pressure off in middle school. Obviously, we know in middle school it's not cool to, be nice all the time and want to do fundraisers. So, but doing it as a class, it kind of took the individual pressure off and really motivated them to get to do it. Also, instead of doing 10% back for those classrooms that got over $1,000 for the individual teachers, we made it more 10% back to the classroom. So in the classrooms, they got to decide what they were using that 10% back for. In the elementary school, we saw a wide variety of ideas, mostly like items. In middle school, it was a lot of pizza, donuts, McDonald's, which is fine if
It's whatever got them
whatever motivated them.
Yeah, and the best part was, like, I had my second grader, or my first, already put her in second grade, my first grader coming home and going, we have raised this much, 10% of that is this much, Mom. We need to raise at least this much, so then I have 10% is this. And she was doing the math already, like trying to figure out exactly, and then what they were gonna spend it on. They had a list, and they were participating each day on, like, okay, what are we gonna buy this time? Their goal was recess toys, and they were so excited to be able to get those indoor recess toys and then actually get to play with them and use them too this year.
So our net, once we gave the money back, paid the fees to Raise Craze, which for Raise Craze, the reason we love it is the fees are extremely low on our end. We netted $85,093 to go back into the school.
Incredible.
All right, grants. Grants are something we added a little different component to this year as well. We opened grants up for student applications. So if the students were interested in applying for a grant, they could do so with a teacher sponsorship. We're hoping to kick that into high gear next year and really get help with administration on advertising it and see how creative the kids can get. But we also had a vast amount of teachers apply for grants. We were able to fulfill every grant that was submitted, which was a really great feeling this year. So like Katie mentioned before, it was $23,339 total in grants that we filled. Some of the bigger ticket items from PLE in gym, they got new gymnastics mats. In Horizon, they took advantage of a new golf program, which you can see a little picture of on the right.
Which will also be supported through the summer camp, or the summer classes. They were able to leverage this educational material and the new equipment to offer golf lessons as a class this year.
Yep. And then in middle school, one of the teachers requested a spray booth, which you can see in the upper left. So we were able to fund that as well through ASA, which I know they're really excited about. In addition to the individual teacher grants, we also had a couple specialized grants applied for throughout the year. So before school started, we were able to supply document cameras to all the classrooms in PLE. And then the life skills program, Julie had asked for t-shirts to go along with the kids, like the DARE t-shirts that we used to get. So as you can see, the Hugs Not Drugs in the corner, we were able to get the t-shirts for 2 different grade levels in the middle school, since one of them missed it last year with COVID.
Melissa?
Yeah?
What did you say that item in the upper left corner is?
It's a spray booth. So the spray booth is used in they use it in art class, and they use it in
STEAM. Yes.
So they're able to paint and
Like spray paint with the
So it
fumes.
has a hood vent and everything. It circulates the air, so it's nice and safe. From my understanding, it's been used like nonstop since they got it installed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's perfect. Table height.
Stacy, that was my question too. I'm like, they want a what? Like spray tan, or what are we doing here? So great question. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're continuing to support our mission with our expanding educational experiences at the school by in the lower left corner, you'll see BizTown was something that we were able to sponsor again this year, which was great. Students were super excited to go back to it. We also, the dot cams are right there on the bottom that were purchased part of the grant money before. The Milwaukee Public Museum, the field trips came back. Students were super excited, so were we. I mean, they were so excited. I have 2 envelopes full, and I'll just pass a few around, of thank you letters that we just received from 6th graders. They all wrote thank yous to be able to pay for their trip, and the busing and everything was included with it, so it was great.
I think what was touching is so many of them are like, we're just so excited to be on field trips again. We're like, we know, we're excited for you. So just their excitement was awesome. And then the 6th grade river field trip that we love sponsoring every year as well.
And on the left side, we have the donuts. So this year, for teacher appreciation and staff appreciation, we were able to work together jointly with the Boosters Club and offer the entire school district, at any of the staff or teachers, a donut trucking, donut, what is it, donut truck? Yeah,
Yeah.
truck. Where they could come and get donut and coffee during that week. So that was exciting too. And then books. So there's in PLE, there's a lot of teachers that were asking for extended books for their classrooms. The kids are going through a lot of different
Leveled readers.
level reading and just looking for a variety, more variety in it. So they asked for some small grants here and there to help cover some of that. So it was great.
So as far as what is next, we had hoped to bring Hoops Night back this year, but when Omicron kind of roared its ugly head again, we got a little nervous with not knowing if we could be inside or outside. So we have already started the planning. We are going to do that definitely this next year. So we're super excited for that to come back. We are hoping to do another Santa event, so figuring out the logistics on that. PLE, the potential for raising money for a new playground is coming up and going to be one of our major goals. And then you can see the pirate on there. That is to symbolize our Booster Club collaboration. So we feel really strongly about working together with the Booster Club. And that's kind of when we were both looking at our missions and this idea of community. We are one school district, and we would love to be working together more. So we've started that collaboration process. We've been able to do a ton with them. We added a position on our board, which is the volunteer coordinator that works with volunteers from the high school and also attends all the Booster Club meetings so that we can kind of have that overlap and figure out what each other are doing and how to work together best. The Booster Club president and I have been having like monthly coffees just to discuss goals for next year and what we're planning and how we can work together. So we're looking towards a joint fundraiser for next year and helping them support the high school fitness center. So that's kind of what is on our plate for next. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
So congratulations on a really successful year.
Thanks.
So you raised a lot of funds.
Yes.
Your grant requests were fairly low compared to the funds you raised.
Yes.
And my understanding is the PLE library and the playground some big things that you're looking to?
Yep. So looking forward, we have for kind of what the money that we have now is allocated towards, and it's been hard because they're kind of big projects that we're trying to save towards. So our bank account looks very nice right now, but knowing the project sizes that are coming up, that will change. So the PLE library, the Horizon library also needs quite a facelift. ASA is looking to do somewhat of an outdoor area for the kids, whatever that can be. The 4K PLE little kids playground needing to be replaced. And then also we were talking to Dr. Katie about potentially doing something with that open space in between all the schools, kind of developing that a little bit. So bigger projects coming up, and that's kind of what we're looking towards. We do support a lot of small causes and a lot of small grant requests, but we really love when we're able to do a big project that makes a big impact. So looking forward to that in 2023.
Other questions for Katie and Melissa?
Our thanks. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys.
I have a couple
Thank
of mementos. Thank yous for your work for the district and for our children. Thank you all.
Great work. Thank you so much. And I really do, and I know I said this when we met, I really appreciate that the PTO and the Booster Club are looking for collaborations to work together. I think that's really an awesome step in the right direction on top of all kinds of good things. So great job. Thank you.
You're, as the saying goes, you're welcome to stay. Bye.
All right, solar panel presentation. I want to say, just before you guys get started, first of all, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here tonight. We're very excited to hear what you have to say. For the board, Steve and I had talked about bringing these two fine young ladies in here to talk about a passion that they have sustained for a couple of years. I think Dr. Bosanic and myself and John, were you in on the first one too? Yeah, we saw, I think when you guys were in 6th grade, saw your first presentation advocating for solar panels in the district. You can sustain that effort and presented to us again this year, and you even brought in a partner from a company that does this kind of work and presented to more of us at the district office. And then I approached Mr. Dankert to see if we could get you on a board agenda, because I know you wanted to bring your message all the way to the top. So we're excited to hear what you have to say, and the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening. My name is Adriana Delman. I'm a 7th grader at the Pewaukee School District. I've been going to this school since I was in kindergarten and lived in Pewaukee my entire life. I have 3 little siblings, and they also go to this school. I've loved being outside ever since I was just a little kid, from lakes and beaches to forests to mountains. Whether it be playing soccer, running, skiing, playing tennis, or simply taking a nice walk with my friends, being outdoors is always my favorite place to be, rain or shine, sun or snow. When I heard about the big problem of climate change as a child, I was sad. I loved to be outside, and I wanted to protect the nature outside my window. It didn't seem right to me that nature should be destroyed because of the way that one species chooses to live. In school, I've been learning about how to take action for my ideas, and have learned what steps can be taken to accomplish goals. And about a year ago, at the start of the 2020-21 school year, I'd wondered if our school was considering installing solar panels, and then contacted Miss Bedoni and a member of the local solar panel company Sunvest, Katie Malcheski, and with some researching, my ideas were turned into a real plan. And since then, there had been a couple challenges with bringing this to reality, and I decided to continue to work on this to get the plan accomplished.
Hello, my name is Tanisi Srivastava, and I am also a 7th grader. I've been going to this school since 4th grade. I have a younger brother named Arv, and my favorite memories with him are when both of us are outside riding our bikes or playing a game together in our driveway. We would often run around in the fields of our neighborhood or climb the trees, but I never paid attention to the fact that the natural world I love might be in danger. As I grew older, I realized that climate change is an ever-growing problem, and it's a problem we need to take steps to solve now. I love the natural world, and I would never want anything bad to happen to it. I try to be more eco-friendly by doing things like recycling and composting, but I can't do it alone. We need everyone to pitch in and help. Climate change will impact everybody, so everybody should be helping solve it. And we have to do more than just recycle and compost, because climate change is a big problem that will require lots of effort and teamwork. When Adriana asked me if I'd like to help with this project to get solar panels for the school, I said yes easily. It's important that we get solar panels because climate change won't just solve itself.
All right, so we have a quote by David Attenborough.
The truth is, the natural world is changing, and we are totally dependent on that world. It provides our food, water, and air. It is the most precious thing we have, and we need to defend it.
So, about the project. Our goal is to get solar panels on the roof of our schools to help the environment and hopefully inspire other area schools to follow in our footsteps to create a cleaner and greener world. So we just have a quick overview of the proposal.
So this is where the solar panels would be laid out in the roof of our school. And so these are some financial details. So the overall cost will be about $600,000, but it'll save us over $750,000 over the course of 30 years.
And there's a 14.8 year payback period, so we wouldn't have to pay for these costs right away.
And these are some energy details. So we plan to receive over $80,000 from grants, and we could cover some of the costs with a GoFundMe or a fundraiser.
And then next up, we'd like to talk about why we should do this.
So how does this benefit our world, our school, and our community? It has long-term cost benefits for our school, and it also has a positive impact on the environment. And we'll be inspiring other schools in our area and citizens in our community to do the same. And we'll be keeping our community clean for the future generations so we can keep on opening the door to each child's future.
So climate change is a problem that's facing our world now. Every single minute, 82,000 tons of carbon dioxide are emitted into the atmosphere around the world. That's so big that it's easier to just ignore the problem and tell ourselves we'll solve it later. But we can't, because every minute we wait is lives lost to the drastic effects of climate change and irreversible damage done to the very ecosystems we should be protecting. Though we may not feel the effects of climate change right now, there are people somewhere in the world that can't live the life they should be able to live because of the way that we choose to use energy. And just because we don't know these people doesn't mean that we have the right to ruin their lives to make ours a little bit more convenient. And so some graduate profile connections. How will solar panels help us keep on opening the door to each child's future? Solar panels will help increase global awareness on issues such as climate change, which goes along with the contributing standard, and by putting panels on our roof, we are showing initiative like that of the commit standard, and we are following the care standard by being empathetic for those who are impacted by climate change and helping them. There are tons more connections, but these are just some of the main ones. And in general, solar panels will help us accomplish our mission by promoting environmentally friendly options and inspiring the next generation of world leaders to take initiative because their ideas can make a difference. And so we have some student feedback. So we surveyed some of our fellow 7th graders on what they thought about our project, and around 90% of people said that they think that we should have solar panels, and again, around 90% of people said that they think that students and people should take steps to lessen their impact on the environment, and all but 15% of people said that they take steps to be more environmentally friendly at home, at least occasionally.
And then this is some feedback that we gathered from other students on what they think about our project.
We received lots of feedback, so we won't have time to go through it all, but we're just going to show some of the things. Students seem to be very passionate about this topic too.
Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that has."
So here's some pictures of my friends and I having fun outside. So it's hard to think about climate change since it's so complex and huge that it seems easier to just put it off for later. We think of it as polar bears and people in developing countries halfway across the world. But it's not just that. This is your very own community. I'm sure many of you have children or grandchildren, nieces or nephews. You've watched them come into this world and grow up, and you want the best for them. You want them to be able to live their life without having to be worried about these problems that we caused. You want them to be able to experience nature, ski down a mountain slope, wake up to snowflakes outside the window on a winter holiday, and play outside in summer, surrounded by bright flowers and the sound of wind blowing through the trees. Climate change is more than just some forest and thousands of miles away or someone in a developing country. It's your very own family and friends. We often think of climate change as some distant problem that we can just solve later, but we have to start taking steps to solve it now. Our generation and future generations, this is the world that we will be living in. This problem isn't just some distant thing that doesn't affect us. This is the future that we will live in. The science behind this often seems to mask up the reality, but the truth is that there are people's lives affected. Someone in some developing country is suffering right now for something that you have done and some problem that we've caused. One of your very own children or grandchildren will suffer because of the way that we choose to live now. This problem isn't just numbers and emissions. This is real people who deserve to live a good life. We can't simply choose not to care and ignore this issue. Climate change is real, it's a problem, and it won't just solve itself. Every single minute we wait is more coal burned, more carbon dioxide emitted, and more trouble caused that the students sitting in your kindergarten classrooms will have to deal with. There are 5- and 6-year-olds in their classrooms listening to stories, singing the alphabet, smiling and giggling carefree with their friends. They don't deserve to live their life trying to solve this web of problems that they didn't cause, trying to unravel this system of life that they are born into. Our steps that we take now, they will determine their future. And I know that all of you sitting here listening are here because you care about kids and you want us to have a great future. I know that our school has taken steps to mitigate environmental effects already, but we need to do more. We need to step up and take action knowing that it will be hard and it will be costly, but it's worth it so that these kids that you work tirelessly to help each day can have a good future. As Carl Gustav Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Let's take action, knowing that if we can be brave enough and bold enough to take a stand on our ideas, others will follow. You have the power to change our future, to change my future, and the future of every child your school teaches. You have the power to keep our world a place worth living in. Your decision will impact many for years to come, and I hope that you'll be able to make the right decision, because the worst thing that we can do is to continue to sit here and do nothing. Thank you for your time.
So do we have questions for our students about their project from the board?
Yes?
What did you say the payback period was?
14.8 years.
14.8 years. Huh?
Yes.
Is there any money available as grant money from like We Energies or anything of that nature?
We have looked into that, but We Energies has to be able to choose specific places, so we would be able to look into it more to see what some other options are for payments. But for right now, some of the grants that we have looked into with Sunvest, are a total about $80,000 with some different energy programs in Wisconsin, such as Solar on Schools and Focus on Energy.
Was energy storage any part of this? Or have you figured that in? Because
So,
schools are only 5 days a week, so the weekend they could just store energy.
yes, so the panels will be on our roof, but the energy would be transferred to We Energies for them to store and keep. So then we don't have to pay for money for storing that energy. And then it would just be used in transmission lines in our schools and stuff. And so we would have, they would be the ones that would storing that energy.
So they would buy it back from us.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
I am blown away, ladies. I mean, you are so well-spoken and poised, and I cannot believe you're in 7th grade, almost 8th grade. Thank you very much for all of that work that you did and all of that research, and the fact that you could just answer Mr. Cammer's questions like that. Wow, just congratulations. That was really impressive.
Thank you.
I'll offer a couple of questions. Are there some other districts in the area that you've talked to that have done a similar project that you want to share with us?
We haven't talked to any specific districts, but there are other schools that have been in our area. The University of Madison has gone with solar energy, as well as a couple, I think Merton, which is like kind of close to us. There's been like other districts. We haven't reached out to any of them yet, but we can if that would help.
And did you plan with Mr. Cady that you'd present the same month that School News Magazine has a big article about solar project in it?
Love it when a plan comes together.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? We really appreciate you taking the time. We appreciate the passion that you have for this topic, and we certainly will follow up on your recommendation. So thank you very much for that.
And
Great
girls,
job.
Thank you.
I
We
would
have
just
some
like
small
to,
gifts. Go ahead.
Mr. President Dankert has gifts for you, but I just want to again compliment you. You just crushed it with your presentation. You did an awesome job. So much better than adults, including myself. You stayed in the timelines I gave you, and I saw Ms. Spadoni checking her watch, and you guys were right on target. And as I've kind of mentioned to you, this is a consideration in the facility master planning process that we have. But very much appreciate. It's not, I don't know if I've ever seen students multi-year commitment to something like this, and you guys should feel really proud of yourselves.
Thank you.
These are not car keys, because by the time you get able to drive, you won't need a key in your car.
Well, they'll get Teslas though. So.
Thank you.
Here, I'll do this. Congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in tonight. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, because of our amendment, thank you, Brian, earlier, we're going to have a special presentation. Mike, are you going to make the introduction, or are we talking?
Yeah, I'll make
Brian?
the introduction, and I'll ask Brian Siegel and Beth to come forward, if you guys want to come by the microphone. We got about 45 minutes worth of, Beth, we've told you your interviews were over, but we're just kind of getting warmed up here. But Brian, I'll turn it over to you. You're the guy that led the charge here. We're excited to have Beth as a member of the team. So before the board goes through with formal action, why don't you walk us through a little bit and introduce Beth to the board.
So I want to formally introduce Beth Ingersoll, who's going to be our new associate principal, to the board. It was quite an extensive process that we went through. We were very sad to see Mrs. Chack relocate at the end of the school year down to Atlanta. Felt like we were just kind of getting rolling as a team, and replacing her was going to be no easy feat. The task that I set out for our staff was not to find a new Amanda Chack, but to find someone else that's going to move our school forward, someone else that is going to challenge us, challenge our thinking, and move us forward as an early elementary school, move me forward as a school leader, as an educator, and also be a great addition to our school culture. So very easy feat ahead of us at that point. We had I think just over 115 applicants for the position. We brought in 16 external candidates for screeners and 1 internal. Through that round, we had our entire building leadership team and some additional staff members watch screening videos and provide feedback, which got us to 6 finalists that came in for panel interviews, as well as a short activity with a group of either second graders or first graders. Through that, we then narrowed it down to 2 finalists and met with senior leaders. And that led us to Beth. So she has a few more details, but she's coming to us with extensive experience at kindergarten, but also experience at 4K as well. And me coming into this position with a lot of second and third grade teaching experience, I thought there would be a great balance of viewpoint of where we can get to as an early elementary school. She's currently in a role where she's not only teaching full-time, but is assuming some administrative duties. A team of 5, so she's coordinating subs and working on discipline, all while teaching full-time. So the ability to multitask and to manage different areas of her school were just very, very impressive. And the team, through both the screener round as well as the panel interview, everybody fell in love with her and said, we could easily see her here every single day. So yeah, we're very, very happy to have her on board with us.
Beth, anything you'd like to share with the board?
I guess just that I'm excited to join a big district and excited to be here and get started and see where it all goes. I guess, I don't know. I'm excited.
I love
She spent a couple days with us already.
Yeah.
And
I love that you
she's
think
still
we're a
here.
big district.
Compared to where I'm coming from, yeah, my school has less kids than PLE, so it is exciting. It's bigger than what I'm currently at, but that's the part that's kind of exciting. A big staff, a lot of wonderful kids. I've had 2 days where I've got to meet them. I was on the playground today, which was they were swarming. It was cute and adorable, and just excited to get to work with the teachers this summer and kick off another school year. So.
Beth, tell us a little bit about your hobbies. What do you like to do when you're not at school?
Man. Well, I am a hockey mom through and through. I was telling Brian about that today. I have 2 kids. So I have a 15-year-old freshman in Oconomowoc who plays hockey for the varsity team, and then a 6th grade middle schooler who is into the musicals and plays. So between hockey mom, goalie mom, and then stage mom, I guess. But other than that, I spend a lot of time. We have a family farm. If you have ever had Ingersoll sweet corn, that is us. So we spend a lot of time.
You're welcome to bring some of that anytime you want.
100%. About 2 weeks after the 4th of July. Yeah, just stop by my office. But yeah, no, so we spend a lot of time outside and just enjoying the farm and our the environment around us and the quiet of Jefferson County and a lot of time with our family. So my parents are in Oconomowoc. My father-in-law is next door. So just kind of small town living, so.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
It's cool.
Other questions from board members?
Sounds like an awesome hire. That's great.
Yeah.
Glad you're here. Glad to have you on board.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Oh, move to approve the hire of, it's F.
Ingersoll.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. It's official.
Yeah, it's official. Congratulations,
aboard.
welcome.
We're very glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining our district.
I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much.
That brings us to comments from citizens. Julie, did we get any?
Salutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Salutes in recognition of community students and staff. Salutes from the board today. Larry has some.
I have a couple of them. It seems like we're kind of going on another round of wonderful athletics in terms of Pewaukee. So I had the opportunity to watch the girls' soccer game on Saturday, and it was a 6-0, I think, over Whitnall Falcons. And they will play again on Thursday night, right here at the Pewaukee Field. So that should be fun. They play Brookfield Central. I don't know if I have an exact time on that or not, but I thought that was pretty cool. It was a nice crowd in our soccer field out there. And then the second one is a recognition, and it just was kind of like hit me in terms of, you know, Pewaukee's winning DNA on full display. And again, this was last week when the baseball team was taking on Catholic Memorial, and they walked away with a 11-5 victory. But it was, Coach Doberstein made some comments, and I think they're worthy of, at least I'm gonna read them anyway and see what you do with them. But he said, these kids, since they were little, they've dominated every sport they've played, Doberstein said. I've been in Pewaukee for 22 years, and it's just been a totally different level. And really, from the time they stepped on campus as freshmen, their belief in themselves and one another, their belief that they're the best every time they step on the field, every time they step on a court, challenged me to believe more. I've never experienced that. They know they're going to win when they show up. So, Coach Doberstein and to the Pewaukee baseball team, I think it was pretty good, and they get to play tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock in the sectionals in Racine, St. Catherine, so yeah.
Excellent.
Exciting times for another round of athletics for Pewaukee this year, so.
Thank you, Larry. Other board member salutes? Yes.
I would like to salute our choir and band director, Mrs. Stingle. She's been a busy lady of late. In the course of a week's time, she did a choir and band. They performed 2 times. First at Great America's Thrill for Thrills competition at Johnsburg High School, and then off to Great America on May 21st, followed by a Pops concert, which, by the way, was supposed to be held outside, but rain threatened. So it had to be moved indoors, but it couldn't be done in the auditorium. So she did it in the Commons area, and I'm sure that was an amazing challenge, but Mrs. Stingle met that challenge, and those kids put on the most beautiful concert. In addition to the concert performance, there was also a fundraiser for the music department. There was food, silent auction, raffles. You know, Mrs. Stingle, she always steps up to the challenge. You can tell she loves what she does, and she always says it's all for the students. But just a big salute to her for all the work that she does with our kids.
That's awesome. Any others?
I have a salute.
Please.
I'd like to salute and recognize Mr. Gull and the Horizon administration and staff for a very eventful May. They hosted High Interest Day, which was, the thanks goes to Lindsay Chandelier, Christine Barr, and their team. They had cupcake artistry and the police. There was a long list of interests that they brought in. Then they also had Encore Night, which was the 3rd and 4th grade concerts, as well as they had street musicians, which were the 5th graders playing ukuleles, and they had drum circle. They had an art gallery walk and Spanish bingo. So thank yous to Amy Barudian and Catherine Purdy and the rest of the Encore team for that. And then finally, they went to Camp Whitcomb this year again, 2-day trip. It was not overnight, but still a fun day of canoeing, fishing, lake study, all of that. So thanks to Alicia Booker and the 5th grade team for that.
Awesome. Any others from the board? I'll offer 2. First, thanks to Mike's notes. Congratulations to Danielle for her being referenced in Ken O'Connor's new book on grading practices. Congratulations, that's quite an honor.
Yeah.
And then second, for our PTO leadership team who presented here tonight and the work that they do all year round to bring good things to our district and their volunteer leadership in that organization. So thanks to them. Mike and team, anything you'd offer?
I got
Go
one.
ahead, Daniel.
So I would want to salute the PLE Encore team. Julie, I have those names because I know I'm going to forget somebody, but it's Jessica Lepke, Sarah Gull, Michelle Steinke, Sierra Gill, and her sub, who's I think a student teacher maybe for us. Julie Perney, Catherine Purdy, Robin Apehold, and Katie Mady. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but they put on field day last week at PLE. The weather was perfection. It was all Disney themed. The kids had so much fun and were so active and engaged, and a great way to burn energy at this time of year for the kids. And then they're gonna turn around this week and do Spring Sing. And so they have these two massive events that really bring so much joy to PLE this time of year. It really highlights both the collaborative nature of that team as well as just the creativity and joy that they have for serving students. And so if you haven't been to a Spring Sing, I would highly encourage it. It's just, I think it got moved to Thursday, but for both Field Day and Spring Sing.
Excellent, thank you.
I don't have anything to add.
Awesome.
Maybe one other one just to throw in there too.
Yeah, please.
I just think it's so cool in terms of this graduate parade that we do on this campus. I don't think there's very many school districts in the entire state that can basically pull that off and have all of the high school graduates do their walk through the buildings or around the campus. It's just a really awesome experience, I think, to be able to do that. So I know that was posted on a lot of Facebook posts and things like that, but it's just, I don't know, it's kind of impressive just to see that happen, so.
It's definitely become one of our community's favorite traditions in a very short period of time, so I agree.
And
Awesome.
the graduates are doing a real parade on Friday.
Really? I didn't know that.
Adding that in
Candy
this
will
year.
be thrown, so spread the word. The little kids need to come
Downtown?
out.
Excellent, excellent. Anything else on that item? All right, now, finally, salutes or comments from citizens that I tried to get to earlier. Anything, Julie? All right, well, that takes us to our consent agenda, which includes minutes from previous meetings, which are the May 23rd board meeting and the policy meeting from the same date, correspondence, and some gifts, some very large gifts. $26,389.10 from the Mike Brown Fundraising Memorial to the high school for new mats, and a Harvey A. Pollock $1,000 donation for the Pewaukee High School Wrestling Team Club, and $6,000 was received from Herb Cole in recognition of Jen Cullen's Teacher Fellowship Award.
I move to approve or accept the consent agenda.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Could I just
7-0.
make one quick comment?
Please.
The large donation from the Mike Brown Fundraising Memorial. So Mike Brown, some of you I'm sure knew Mike Brown. Others may not. Mike Brown was a parent in the district, and he coached our youth program for, I don't know, probably 20 years. And he just recently passed away. So I was fortunate enough to coach Mike's sons, Matt and John. And then when Ed Kurth took over, I think he had the last several years of Matt's run here and on the high school wrestling team. And so I believe it was Matt reached out to Ed wanting to do something for the wrestling program, and just coincided with an effort we were looking at for improving the practice room, continuing to improve that practice room with Matt. So it was kind of a perfect effort, but really just wanted to acknowledge the Mike Brown family for being part of, and just kind of their continued following through with Mike's passion, who is just, if you knew him, he's just such a tremendous human being. So it was great that we could be part of honoring him in this way.
Thank you, Mike. All right, turning now to Brian to take us through the Business Affairs Committee that met earlier this evening.
Yeah, we met earlier this evening. As you can tell, we're getting towards that end of the year. We're looking at the budgets and how that's all going to come out. We had our questions answered regarding the check register. The financial report was reviewed. We had some questions there. And then we took some time to talk about the translation of account numbers to where it belongs in the school. So that's something that takes a little getting used to. We also talked about some of the high impact things that we do here to reduce expenses. A lot of them are enumerated in the budget report, but some of the highlights are our continuing work on health insurance costs, savings, only a 3% increase. We are going to have to address bulk salt because we're no longer able to buy it through the village and store it there. We have a software program that I thought was pretty interesting. We have smart electrical panels that can measure the draw through electricity draw, and we're using that to try to reduce our demand charges, which can make up a significant percent of your monthly electrical bill. We continue to do transportation analysis to minimize the number of bus routes we have, and then the effective use of personnel, either to do having staff to help do professional development or changing roles and becoming internal substitutes for some of the absences we've had. So those are some of the highlights. With that, recommend that the board approve the Business Affairs Committee's report.
So
Thank-
moved.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Brian. That brings us to new business, and first up on our list is Katie, and I think Danielle, you might wanted to introduce the topic?
Yeah, so what we have for you tonight is the RTI Handbooks. Katie Spadoni is here to help answer any questions if you have them. So this is something that we bring forward to the board every year, along with the employee handbook you had last time. You'll see student handbooks next time. So this is part of that process. And so you received the memo that outlined the changes that were made. I will note that next year, we're looking to do a much larger overhaul of the handbook, combine all the addendums into one, and really better align the handbook to both our graduate profile and the changes in intervention services that have continued to evolve since 2015 when we first started really implementing a strong RTI model, right? We've learned, we've gotten better, so we just need, we're in the midst of that program review, so this year we updated languages to be to match practices as needed, which is what we do every year, but next year we'd be looking to do a bigger overhaul and more of a program analysis and review for you when we come to you about this time next year. So, but Katie is here. She has led RTI for us for a couple of years and does a fantastic job. And so we're happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, we would seek your approval of the handbooks.
Yeah, Brian.
I don't really have a question, just a comment. You made a comment one time that we have people visit us and see how we operate in the RTI program and how impressed they are. They ask you if we actually do all that. And I think we need to take a lot of pride in this because there's not many districts that are anywhere near this kind of level of response for RTI. I would have to say 80 or 90% are nowhere close to that, and they're too busy fighting fires to take this kind of program on. So we are blessed that way to be where we are.
Yeah, we've seen some nice gains. Just earlier today, we heard from DPI and the Wisconsin RTI Center that PLE earned the Silver Award again this year for a top RTI program. So we've had at least one of our schools win that award every year since 2016. And so I think that's a testament to the process we've had as well. And you know, especially in math this year, we're really starting to see some nice things happening at our elementary level. I always tell the interventionists, it's our job to work them out of a job, right? Like if we're doing it well, we're gonna work them out of a job in the good way, right? Not in that we wanna get rid of them way. And so we definitely are seeing some positive things specifically in math at our earliest grades right now. But thank you, Brian, I appreciate that comment.
And that silver recognition was in both math and reading.
Yes.
For PLE.
Yes.
Katie, do you have anything you wanted to say to the board about questions that you might have gotten earlier? Any highlights that you wanted to enumerate?
Yeah, no, I'm really grateful to be able to have this opportunity to lead the district team for RTI. It's been a really great experience and has grown my leadership capacity. Our district team is composed of all the associate principals and then the school psychs, as well as some student services members, David Woodford and Michelle Davison. And we meet throughout the course of the year and then the reading and math interventionist also meet on the professional development days. So there's been a lot of collaboration on this. The entire team is really excited about the program renewal. So as Danielle foreshadowed, next year will probably be a little bit more in depth. I'll be able to walk through the work that we've done this year and going into next year. And to your point, Brian, part of year 2 of program renewal are site visits. And as we spoke and connected with area districts, we really are doing a lot of great work. So we're going to take the route as far as doing some research and some reading together to see if there's any new pieces that we can add into our program. So we'll dive into that next year, and then really work to integrate the different addendums and the academic side of intervention into one piece, thinking about the whole child. So how do we not just think about them as a rater, as a mathematician, you know, as student conduct or attendance concerns, but really how do all of those play in together, and how do we work to support the growth of all of that in collaboration with teachers and parents. So I'm excited about the work that the year ahead of us has. As Danielle mentioned, the notes that were in the memo are just kind of that overview of some language that we updated, but nothing really major to highlight as far as big changes that I think that you should be aware of as you talk to community members, but here to answer any questions that you might have as you looked over the memo.
So I'll just go around. Jeannie, anything you
No,
have?
I just was impressed at when I read the RTI handbook, how well it meshes with our graduate profile.
Thank you. Brian, anything you want to bring
No,
up?
I stood my piece.
Thank you very much. Larry?
Yeah, I just have one question. And it was, obviously, there were, the behavior addendum, it shows it as being a document, or at least what we're seeing as approved in 2017.
That's when the original addendum was so when we originally developed the RTI handbook, we did the academic handbook first in 2015. We did the tag addendum in 2016, and then we did the behavior addendum in 2017 because they were each so large that it took us a year to develop each one. So the original one was that. So we could update that as far as like the
Yeah, 'cause
you know
it
the
kinda
date,
gives you
so
the
it makes a
wrong
little bit more
impression
sense.
in
But
terms
that's
of
what it
thinking that
was.
isn't there, and I know we've done a lot of things with that. And obviously, the information that's in there is, I think, critical, and obviously, there's more and more things that we've done with the, bringing the, social work counselors and folks on campus. So it was just confusing and seeing
Yeah.
that be like approved by the board on 2017.
Yeah.
It was approved
looked
or
at every
approved,
year.
but
And
then
revised,
updated
yeah.
and then.
Yeah, we can change that to
reapproved.
like originally approved and then in a
Like we do with our policy.
like we do with our
Right.
policies, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can share that with you.
No problem.
Thank you, Larry. Anything else?
No, other than I agree with Brian in the sense, I mean, that the work and the effort that we put into it, and again, it's at both ends of the spectrum. I mean, the students that needs the help, and obviously our work that we do with the TAG program, and having that clearly documented and defined in the flow charts that go along with that, I think speaks highly of our commitment to opening the door to each child's future, and hopefully that will continue to guide us as we go forward, so.
Stacy, anything?
No, I thought I mentioned this to you guys already, the memo was really nice to have that summary. I do have a question about what you just said about PLE being honored. What's the criteria? And where I'm going is, we have the same programs throughout the schools. Like, why was one of our schools identified?
Yeah, I can't really answer that only because some years, there's some years some of the schools get it, some years they don't. We submit the same thing for all of the schools. There's it's, I can't remember what it's called. It's not like an assessment we do, but it's like a tool that we complete. I don't know if it's, I really don't know, to tell you the truth. Like, I don't understand.
Is it a
different
test result thing? Like, you're able to show
No, it's like, it's more like
quantitatively?
a like a reflection assessment of like how far deep into implementation you are in certain areas. I don't know if they then also pull a state assessment results into it. They don't share with us exactly how the criteria is. And PLE would be wonky with state assessments because they don't have one, because right there that 4K through 2 configuration. And so I'm not entirely sure, to tell you the truth.
It says
I was looking today at the whole list across the state, thinking like, well, like how many people got gold? And there's only like 6 like golds that were awarded across the state. Like, it was really, really small. And so
Did you see a trend in the level of school, like intermediate high school? Like that
Definitely
kind of-
elementary is the most, yeah, obvious. High schools are rare to see. And yeah, so definitely it goes up the older, or the most are at the lower grades.
Got it. Okay.
But that kind of goes with our philosophy, catch them as quick as you can to either
Yeah.
help them or enrich them.
Yes.
Were those schools, exemplary schools, are the ones that you would say, like, yeah, they really got it going on?
You know, there wasn't a rhyme or reason. Like, I mean, some were really small, some were really big, some,
Yeah.
you know, some, were in urban, rural.
Yeah.
It was like all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
It's a
And some I
mystery.
don't know honestly much about just because they're not in our area, so,
Yeah, got
yeah.
I mean, the press release, that's the kind of template that you can use, just really speaks to being recognized for successfully building a school-wide, equitable, multi-level system of supports aimed at closing achievement gaps. And that's really what it's about. So it's whatever evidence. The question is, what exactly is the evidence that they're, because I know the high schools, PLE's had it before, Horizons had it,
We've had all the
ASA,
schools
all
have it
schools
before,
have been
yeah.
recognized in the past.
Thanks for the question, Stacy. Jane, anything you would like to add to the conversation? Bren? Anything for you?
I was just going to say that prior to getting these materials, I wasn't really familiar with the program, and I'm completely impressed. And it's just one more thing that says to me that our district does everything we can to make sure that every child is successful in their learning while they're here at our district. I was just curious, how much parental involvement is there in this intervention?
Yeah, so there's kind of three different areas, right? We've got our academic intervention, and then the behavioral addendum has several strands to it, and then our talented and gifted programming as well. So within each of those, parental involvement is key, and so at the onset of any noticing that a school staff member has, the first thing is we reach out to the family and engage them in the conversation, and do as much as we can to learn about their child and different supports that are in place. So from the onset, it's about that communication. As we kind of level up in tiers, if support's more intense, then that collaboration is heightened, where then they're coming in and we're co-creating some plans, right? Whether that be an attendance contract, what's the family doing, what's the administrator doing, what's the student doing. It's really doing things with kids, not to kids, right? And so we want to make sure that they are having a say and the family's having a say in what those plans are. So if you read through each one, there's parental involvement at every step that's noted. And that's been a really important piece as we kind of reintegrate back into school and make sure that we're all rowing the boat in the same direction.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your leadership, and thanks for coming to speak to us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
I move to approve the Response to Intervention Handbook and Addenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Katie. Next in new business, we're going to hear from John Gahan as he talks to us about the property and liability insurance renewal.
Oh, thanks, Steve. So tonight, the board is asked to take action on renewing our property and liability coverages for the district. Last meeting, we talked about health insurance and renewing our participation in WCASC. This one comes all of our other non-employee benefit policies that we look at. So I won't go into detail on each one of them. There's a summary of the proposal in your packet. A couple of things in particular, though, the cyber insurance industry is experiencing some major losses at this point in time, and a lot of risk exposure. So we have spent a significant amount of time in the last 6 months upgrading our internal processes, upgrading our controls, working on network accessibility, all to build the case to be able to get a quote for cyber insurance. Many places are even struggling to have policies available to them as a district. So we were able to go through a marketing effort utilizing our incumbent agency, and also looking at a second agency to get some comparables to make sure where we're at with rates. Our cyber policy has an increase of about 80% in premiums this year, which is below what the market is experiencing. So we've done a good job at this point of putting in controls and protections in place to be able to mitigate some of the losses that we could experience. So you have that in your packet as a proposal. A second area that is experiencing some significant increases is in the property insurance. Between losses that the big carriers are having and inflation on materials for completing projects and completing work for losses, we initially heard that we should experience a 15 to 25% increase in those rates for this year. This comes on top of last year, adding to our value $40 million worth of construction. So we did see an uptick in the cost of our property insurance again this year over the previous year. The good news comes in our workers' compensation, and over the last 3 years, we've been able to make a significant impact on reducing our workers' comp modification, our mod factor, which is our experience that we've had in our losses that we've incurred. That mod factor has dropped to a 0.77 from over 1.0, which resulted in over a $35,000 reduction in our premiums for this upcoming year. So ultimately, that reduction in premium nets out some of the increases we've seen in other areas, and overall, we see a decrease in the entire package for our insurance package for the next year. There's two motions that are presented to the board. We split the policies a few years ago and had two different carriers, two different brokerage firms that are representing the district in marketing these policies. The first one goes with M3, and you see the summary of coverage. This is a majority of the coverages that we have on a liability side, and the total amount of that proposal is $175,215. And the second motion then is for the property equipment breakdown, cyber liability, and crime policies, and those are placed with Gallagher as the agency through to then the carriers in the total amount of $114,279.75. Are there any questions?
Can our workman's comp mod factor get any lower, or is it pretty tapped out?
We have 24 days left in this fiscal year, but it looks like right now the mod will reduce again next year.
Excellent.
Probably into the 0.64, 0.65 range. That's about the bottom.
Gotcha. Excellent. Thanks for the safety of our workers. Other questions from board members?
I move to approve the insurance renewal with M3 per the attached summary of coverage proposal in the amount of $175,215, which is gross.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
I move to approve the property equipment breakdown, cyber liability, and crime policies with Gallagher in the amount of $114,279.75.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, John, for that. And we're going to come right back to you now and talk about the resolution of the escrow for the defeasance of interest.
So the board is asking through this action tonight is to create an escrow agreement for the defeasance of debt service payments, where we transfer the money over to an escrow agent to make the payments for next year. And it aids us in the timing of when those payments are recorded on the district books. We did budget for this, so it's been part of the budget since last April to have this completed, and we do analysis on an annual basis to see what benefit can it be beneficial for the district to act on a defeasance. The total of the defeased amounts for this year is $1,402,518.76. It represents the interest payments for September of 2022 and March of 2023 on the 2019 Series A and Series B bond issues that are outstanding.
Is that the full amount of those interest payments for the upcoming year?
That's the full amount of the interest payments.
Would you ever defease a different amount than the full amount, or is that normally the right value for us to do, John?
We have to analyze the transaction and the impact on our overall financial state on an annual basis. And at some points, it may be more beneficial to partially defease. This represents 4 payments. So each debt service has a September and a March payment. So there's 4 payments. Some years it may just be two. Some years it may be none. Other years it may be some principal on top of that, like we did in 2020.
Excellent. Questions from members of the board? Jeannie, anything you would have a question about? Brian?
I had mine answered.
Larry? Stacy?
Good.
Jane?
No, we
Bren?
discussed it in.
Great.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the establishment of an escrow account with respect to certain of the interest only on the general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019A, dated March 20th, 2019, and certain of the interest only on the general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019B, dated March 20th, 2019, collectively the defeasance transaction.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, John, for those 2 items, and thank you for your work to help save the district resources so we can put into the school classrooms. Next up, Mike's going to give us a presentation about the Southeastern Wisconsin School Alliance Agreement.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And Larry, might want to jump in as well since he's been very active with SWSA. But this is an annual action that we come to the board to renew our membership with SWSA. It's been a very powerful and helpful relationship that we've had with this organization. It includes 31 different school systems in the state of Wisconsin, including many very large systems such as Milwaukee, Kenosha, Racine, are members of SWSA. So there's a substantial, and I forget the percentage, unless Larry, you can remember, of students in the state that are represented by? 25%. Yeah, so like a quarter of the students in the state of Wisconsin do have representation by this organization. It's very much our organization that we turn to for lobbying and political advocacy for our schools. And they do a really good job of it and connect us to resources, everything from 2 full years of meeting with the heads of the pediatrics at Children's Hospital regarding the pandemic that presented to us every month, to our lobbyist that works on our behalf, to bringing in legislators to meet with the group to speak with us directly so we can hear what's going on at the state level and to be able to present our side. It gives us the opportunity. I know John's been very active when we talk about when he went and testified in front of the Blue Ribbon Commission. That was directly as a result of our connection through SWSA. So it's been a really good organization for us to be involved in. I'd certainly recommend it. We continue. You can see the annual membership is $3,200. And take any questions you have, but otherwise seek your approval.
This is, so a couple of things with it. We've been a member since probably the beginning of it, and it just does cover Southeastern Wisconsin in terms of the school districts that are members of this. And for the majority of them are. But you can kind of imagine from Racine, Kenosha, Milwaukee to us and other folks, it covers all
suburban,
all
rural,
different perspectives in terms of the,
yep.
In fact, that's true in terms of what's out there. I mean, the different perspectives, political perspectives that are there. But we try to stay within a very, very, very narrow kind of range of what we're advocating for. And again, it's advocating on behalf of the students in our region and the funding to support the schools that are out there. We will have there is a new executive director, Terry Phillips, who was the school board member in Kettle Moraine, and prior to that it was Jack Linehan, who was a former superintendent at Shorewood, in terms of his being involved with it. So we've been a member probably for a good 15, 20 years or almost in terms of that. So the part of it that I really want to kind of make the point on is that we do reflect both sides of the aisle. I mean, we bring in the candidates that are there or our representatives within our district. We've had Voss speak to us, and back in the day, it was Luther Olson, Koyenga, who was from the Brookfield area, different people that are participants in typically what's the Joint Finance Committee, right? So the people that really make some of the funding decisions in Madison. So they're a big, big part of this. And we also connect with the Department of Public Instruction. So we have presentations and have those folks come in and give us our perspective. But there's a basic fundamentally mission statement for SWSA and political, I guess we're gonna call it, positions in terms of what's out there. And those will be updated and refreshed as we go into the next round of budget cycle, which comes up next spring in terms of working on that. So, and we have been doing mostly virtual meetings, but I think they're gonna try to do some in person now, and we typically hold those at the Elmbrook School District, and they get a little bit of a discount with that. And then Blaze Paul, John's friend at South Milwaukee, does the financial documentation for all of this, and so they get a slight discount in terms of their membership dues for this as well. So
Yeah, their first in-person in more than 2 years is next Tuesday, so that we can meet the new executive director.
What's her background? Where does she come from?
She comes from DPI. That was her background, is my understanding.
Who?
The new executive director.
No.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was thinking of the person replacing John Forrester at SAA. Never mind.
So the lady that's coming in, she's actually from the state of Illinois.
Yeah,
She's the
superintendent.
superintendent of schools down there. She has a residence in Lake Geneva. Not on Lake Geneva, but on one of the other lakes down there. And so she's coming in with many, she's actually a retired superintendent.
Yeah, from Illinois.
Which would be
That's
kind of like the equivalent of the first guy, Jack Linehan, who was retired from Shorewood School District. So she's bringing that perspective to it, and we'll be able to work and transition with Terry. And we really rely heavily on the lobbyists that we work with, Rami Zolnikova or something, out of Madison, who we've worked with for a number of years now as well. And John and other folks, we've done like educational sessions for legislative folks and the staffers, because really a lot of times it's not so much the legislator as it is the staffers who work on the stuff behind the scenes that are there. So, yeah, we have a full bio, and we can get that to you in terms of it as well. But a retired superintendent who lives in the state of Wisconsin and I move to approve the SWSA contract.
I'll second that.
Can I ask a question, Larry? What would you say is the difference between the advocacy work of SWSA and NSBA?
Oh, NSBA is.
Or sorry, WASB, I apologize.
Well, okay, that's one of the other things which is part of the, I guess what do you call it, the direction that is provided is that SWSA and WASB, there's also the Rural School Alliance, and then there's the SAA group. I mean, they're like partners in terms of what's there. They meet and talk on a monthly basis in terms of the executive directors to make sure that we're aligned in doing what's there. And the focus of SWSA just tends to be maybe a little bit more focused on Southeast Wisconsin, whereas the state of, or the WASB has 421 some school districts. Here, we're talking about 30 of them, so.
Thanks.
But it's, I would say that it's an aligned kind of focus as much as possible, but recognize that, again, rural Wisconsin has very different kind of issues and needs out there than what we face here, so.
The rural folks would focus more on like transportation costs,
yeah.
digital access and things of that nature.
That's gotta be a real problem for them right now, transportation costs. I gotta imagine that's a difficult situation to be in.
So their focus is just different
Yeah.
just because of where they're.
Well, Larry also kind of, mentioned this, SWSA does a nice job of balancing, they consider, because any of you who've looked at state funding understand that, advocating for one change may negatively affect other districts, so they're very careful, and I think they do a nice job of trying to balance when they pick the items that they're gonna advance. They're very thoughtful about how it affects the 31 districts, because what might be good for one might be bad for another, so they're very thoughtful about those.
Thanks.
So if John wants to explain that to you, it's one of the bigger topics is the revenue limits that are out there and how different school districts are impacted by that significantly. So take the tutorial with John Gahan and learn all about revenue limits.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Motion was made and seconded, so we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much, everyone, for your comments on that one. Jeannie is going to give us an update on two policies tonight. Jeannie?
Okay, policy number 7100.03, which is Board of Education member expectations. All we really did on this one was review it and update some of the language in it. We made no significant changes.
Any questions from board members on policy 7100.03?
I'm good.
All right, Jeannie?
7100.07. We made a few more changes on this one because of the fact that in the past we've done our board of elections orally completely, and this year we did it with ballots. We needed to put that into the policy somewhere. So we added in the second paragraph that a written nomination shall be offered unless the board chooses to proceed with verbal. So we now have both options open to us. And it continues kind of on the same thing, giving us both options with it. And the first person to receive a majority of the quorum of the board, whatever it might be at that particular meeting.
4 of 7, though. That's the change.
Yeah.
Well, it says, that, for example,
Clarification, I guess.
for example, 4 of 7, but if you're, it doesn't specify it must be 4 of 7, because let's say you have let's say you have 2 board members resign, you're sitting here with a 5-member board, it might be 3 of 5. So it uses e.g. 4 of 7, but the intent is that it's a quorum of the board. Majority of the quorum of a quorum of the board.
And then the other thing that we added under the clerk's duty, we gave the clerk one more duty. Now he has to serve as a filing officer for petition recalls, because that's kind of come before us lately as to who is in charge of that.
Is it a state mandate?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a state. It's
Yep.
built into the state. It's been out there for a long time, so. Yes, it was not probably officially included in the document, so.
And I want to thank Jane because she found a couple of formatting mistakes that we had in there, and Julie fixed them for us already, so we're good on that. And I did not receive any questions.
Excellent. Any questions currently for Jeannie on that policy? I'd seek a motion then.
Goes into consent for next time.
Oh, it does. I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize. Thanks, Brian, for the correction.
No problems.
Personal issues, we dealt with this earlier, and I don't believe we have any other resignations or leave of absence requests.
Correct.
So now we're to board goals and operations. I have a list of things I think that many of you are aware of in terms of upcoming activities. This is a busy week. Wednesday, 8th grade promotion at the football field is still planned? They're still,
Well, they're going to make a decision Wednesday morning, but it's looking more and more like in the gym. So
okay.
And I thought when I just talked to Katie Spadoni, the decision might have been made, but it's tight written.
I think the communication is going to formally go to Wednesday, but unless the forecast changes right now, I would anticipate it'll be in the gym.
So that's 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening.
Correct.
Friday at 11:45 is the end of year celebration here at the high school. Starting at 11:45, 1 p.m. for the presentation in the auditorium.
It says end of year celebration in mine, 12:45, but Julie, it is 11:45. It's 11:45. Yeah, and the ceremony begins at 1, right? Because once we get the elementaries and everybody in. So ceremony at 1, but the end of year celebration, just in case if you're looking at board docs, it says 12:45, but it's 11:45.
Excellent. And then Friday, of course, Friday evening, 7 p.m. in the main gym at the high school, PHS graduation.
Steve, what time do you want us there? Usually we come early because Amanda takes pictures. Miranda does.
Yeah, let's definitely plan for 6:30, 6:40, 6:30, 6:40. Does that seem okay? Is that enough time?
Yeah, I would say
6:30.
6:30 is probably good, because then I got to get on stage. And
Usually
those of
fills
you
up.
handing out
I mean, that's-
stuff.
Okay.
Parking lot's
Yeah.
fill up and stuff, so.
Great question. Thanks, Jeannie.
The John Blask syndrome comes in at the last minute, so.
Yeah.
6:30 will stay.
Excellent. I like
I feel
that
like
idea.
I've adequately filled that role. It is the seat that I was appointed to. So.
Excellent. 6:30 then for board members for Friday night.
By the way, Thursday, the girls' soccer game is at 7.
7. Thank you, Brian.
Spring Sing has been moved to Thursday because of the weather forecast, and that's at 1.
I think
I think it's 1:30.
1:30, I think.
Yep, 1:30 on my calendar.
Yeah.
Lots going on this week.
Yeah. Then our next board meeting, on Monday, June 20th, Business Affairs will not be meeting because we met tonight. So just a regular meeting then, at 7 PM.
Policy.
I don't think there's a policy meeting scheduled for June.
On our,
Yeah, Policy Committee at 6.
It is.
On
Okay.
June 20th.
All right, I missed it, thank you. Policy at 6, board at 7. The next meeting is July 11th. That one will be Business Affairs at 6 and board at 7. Wednesday, August 17th, new teacher breakfast and potentially a special board meeting at 7:15 that morning if we need to do any hires. That's here at the high school.
Is that on August 17th?
August 17th.
Because I can't attend on that day.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as we have at least 4 board members, we could act on any hiring. Monday, August 22nd is the night of our annual meeting, so we'll have a 6 PM Business Affairs meeting, 30 minutes, 6:30 regular board meeting for 30 minutes, and then at 7 o'clock we'll be in the annual meeting for the district. And that's in the auditorium that night. Tuesday, August 23rd, which is the next day, is the welcome back breakfast and maybe a special meeting if we need one for, again, employment action. And that's at the high school. I didn't write down the start time for that, but I think it's 7:30.
Yep.
Anything I missed? That gets us through the end of August. Okay, legislative advocacy. Anything anyone's got around legislative advocacy right now?
No, just other than, there is one thing that's coming up at WASB, they're having their leadership conference. It's the July 8th and.
Yeah,
9th.
in La Crosse. Yeah, La Crosse, right? Yeah. So let Julie know if you want to attend the leadership conference. Okay, board meeting schedule. So in your packet was the schedule with topics for the 2022-23 school year. I only had one suggestion. I sent it out in an email to all of you. I would recommend that we schedule the November 28th meeting to start at 6 PM. That's our meeting that always takes a lot of time because we go through all the data that evening. So my recommendation would be we start an hour earlier that night. Instead of 7 PM, start at 6 PM. There are no committee meetings that night, so it would be easy for us to make that adjustment if we think the staff could support it.
I'm good with it.
I'm good. We talked about that earlier, kind of
We
decided
did.
it was a good idea.
Yeah, yeah, good, so thank you for support with that one. Otherwise, the agenda topics are outlined from past years in that document, so you can get a sense of what is to be covered on any one given night as you start planning in advance for those meetings for next year. Any questions about that schedule? Okay, and then that brings us to our Board of Education meeting evaluation survey. We agreed in our last meeting that we would take that survey as a test run to see what we learned from it after this meeting. We'd use this meeting as the framework for that. There was the one note that I sent out to the team that there's some questions about post-meeting follow-up activities. So we could use last meeting as the post-meeting follow-up assessment, and then tonight's meeting and the work up until tonight to do in the survey, if that's acceptable to the group.
Yeah, good plan.
Okay?
Okay, so other than what you're saying.
Yes.
Because let's not necessarily defer the discussion of this, because we have it down to discuss this at another meeting coming up, right?
Correct.
Take the survey, do the survey. It is what it is. I mean, obviously looking at this based on the system that's out there and Julie, I think, is gonna deploy it, or has already deployed it in terms of put it out there. So if you take it, and if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, okay, so we just
Yeah.
have to go forward with it, but I'm trying to narrow the window down that we're not into this, like, because we only have one meeting in July, right?
Right.
So we don't have a lot of opportunities to potentially look at our meeting functions here, if you will.
Correct. Yeah, the intent, I think we discussed last time, Larry, was to take the survey after this meeting and discuss the results at the June 20th meeting.
Perfect. As long as we don't lose that sight of that. So,
Yep, thank you.
because that might play into board goals, which have to
Correct.
be developed coming up.
Over the summer, yeah.
So,
Correct, thank you very much for that. So please let me know if you have any questions about that, but the survey is out there and is live. And hopefully the couple of trial runs that I ran through it didn't corrupt it with too much bad data. All right, and then our last item then for this evening is an update from strategic planning, which I was glad to be a part of, and I know all of you were as well to be part of that conversation. So we had the results submitted in the board packet, the couple of spreadsheets of information with individual responses from students, staff, parents, community members. And then we had the themes from the exit responses and the actual verbatims. We had the summary of the gallery walk and the actual strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats gathered in each of the team breakouts. So I'll just open it up to the board for any specific comments, questions, observations that people want to make about that, and then we'll hear from the staff about what we do next. First of all, any comments or observations the team would like to make?
I mean, I like the summary of the SWOT analysis in terms of how that was presented, in terms of the overall, and then the students, the staff, and the community. And I think there was like a lot of information in trying to absorb it, so I will tell you that even though I looked at it and tried to go into it, but it was still a lot in terms of being able to kind of sort through it all and figure out what are some of those things that we really have to address, need to address kind of thing. And then get into the nitty-gritty details of each of the individual responses. There was like a few things in there too. So I mean, I think it's a worthwhile activity, and obviously reflects kind of what our community is telling us about our school district and some things that we need to work on relative to making improvements in the eyes of the students, in the eyes of the community, and the eyes of our staff. So.
Thanks, Larry. Anything else from board members? So I just to give you all what I've been doing about this, I heard in my room during the actual event some concerns about student behavior being really a big challenge this year. So I talked to Mike about that, and then I went and met with Anthony and Katie last week on Friday to talk to them about what's going on at the middle school, because I heard that was probably the place that it was showing up as the worst in the district in terms of the challenges they faced this year. And I just tried to find and seek opportunities where the board could be supportive of the middle school team and anyone, and the whole campus team actually, but really focus that conversation on the middle school team, what we might do. One of the things, there's a lot of things that they were talking about. I know Danielle's very familiar with some of the concepts that Anthony and Katie were talking about, and I know there's a lot of work planned over the summer with that topic. But two things that I would like to recommend for the board to take some action on. One is Mike and I have spoken about having this be a topic on the June 20th board meeting agenda, where we actually look at some data from our system about interventions and disciplinary actions for student behavior to see what the data is telling us, because we're a data-driven network. So that's planned for the June 20th agenda. And also, I recommend that the board crafts a letter to our staff to just recognize the challenges that they've all faced this year and thank them for their work in light of the big challenge with student behavior. So if no one has an objection to that, I'd like to go forward with sending a note to all of our district employees to thank them for, not acknowledge the challenge that this year has been for them with student behavior, and to thank them for their continued support and work for our students in light of that challenge. Any concerns about that? Yeah, Larry, please,
Maybe,
please.
just
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
how it's coming across, I think, I mean, without knowing, and obviously you spent a little bit more time talking about it, but I think we have to be kind of careful in terms of how we would word that. I mean, because I don't think it applies to all of the close to 3,000 students here, because usually the behavior issues tend to be kind of maybe focused. So if it's there, we need to recognize and acknowledge it, but I don't want to be pointing fingers at all of our potentially students or parents saying, well, yeah, the school board is pointing fingers at all of the kids, but, you know, that we address these behavioral challenges in a way that, I don't have the right words for it in terms of what's there, but that it's being addressed and that our mechanisms and our processes that we have in place to address behavioral issues are there somehow with policies associated with that.
It was still a difficult year for everybody.
I understand that in terms of what's there, but I just don't want to kind of like all of a sudden, I mean, we've had kids in terms of our, you know, football teams, basketball teams, soccer teams, baseball teams. I mean, at the high school level, but if there's other challenges that are out there, yes, we need to recognize and understand that kids have been going through a lot, and some of these things are adolescent brain kind of stuff happening and other kids' behaviors. But let's not necessarily kind of like showcase that, if you will. And
Yeah, I would recommend, since we're gonna talk about it next meeting, you know, I can draft a letter for your consideration, that you can, have me modify, adjust, so that it has the right voice and tone that you guys are looking for.
Yeah, I think, what I was thinking about, Larry, was not pointing finger at students in general, but thanking the staff for dealing with the challenges that they have encountered this year, acknowledging that it has been a very difficult year for all of them.
But Steve, I don't think you can concentrate on behavior because they're dealing with mental issues, they were dealing with a downslide in academics, and I think then they all mesh together.
It's more encompassing, yes.
So I think it's a thank you letter to the staff, certainly, but I wouldn't focus on behavior. I would focus on everything.
The bucket of challenges.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you for your input. Yep.
So if we go over the data in June, who would be here to present it? Is it just, not that that's a problem, but is it you guys, or do we have some of the
Yeah, I'll have to talk to Candace and see what's available and, you know, what's kind of accessible for her to pull together. There's, you know, number of incidents, there's detention, suspension rates, there's truancy, there's different things we can share and kind of compare to maybe some previous years, maybe pre-pandemic. Might be interesting to look at. And maybe she can, if she's not available, I'm comfortable sharing it with you. I'm sure Danielle's comfortable. We've both dealt with in our roles as formal high school APs.
Would it make sense to have anyone from student services?
Yeah, we can ask Tony to be here and maybe a counselor or two to be here to give their perspective, because it is complex. I was gonna, maybe I'll do a follow-up email just to make for your convenience, but Alan Borsick, if you ever read his column in the Journal Sentinel, he wrote a good article this weekend that really kind of captured just what's going on. And this is happening everywhere, where behaviors are a challenge, and is this for lack of a better term, a hangover effect to the pandemic and the lack of socialization and those kinds of things that have maybe stunted some behaviors in students, and the longer we're back into more of a normal situation, does that kind of work its way out? And he kind of ruminates on that, as well as other issues facing education. So you could look, it's in the Sunday paper, the Journal Sentinel, but I'll grab that link and send it out to you, because it kind of captures that this is not a local issue. This is a pretty universal issue, that behaviors are a bigger challenge than typical. But it's the mental health, it's all those kinds of things, it's all coming together.
So, Mike, would you draft something up? We don't have to take any action on it tonight. We can wait until we see the data that we look at on the 20th and determine what's appropriate for us as a board in terms of our action as a result of that.
I have a quick question. Isn't this the second year that 6th grade is in Asa Clark?
Yes.
Yeah. So then comparing it pre-pandemic, in 6th grade, they would have been in.
Horizon.
Horizon. So, okay.
But we can do
I
it
mean,
by,
I don't-
we
I
can look
don't-
at, we can
I
look at
don't-
grades.
I mean, it's a common practice to have sixth grade in the middle school. I'm not saying, I'm just thinking ahead about the comparison and that type of thing, and just curious if
Yeah.
that, I don't think it would really be any effect on that change. I think it's other things, I'm sure, but I was just another point.
Yeah, it's a good point, Jane. I mean, that's a substantial shift to go from a 4 through 6 building to a 6-8 building, and has that had any impact? The 6th grade has not been the heavy hitting group this year. We've had quite a bit from 7th grade, quite honestly. But it'll be interesting, to Steve's point, to actually, we have perceptions, and we intend to look at the data. We haven't really pulled those numbers together. So it might feel a certain way, but the numbers might show its own story. So we'll have to kind of see what that looks like. But it's a really good point. And of course, the 6th grade made that transition in a very obviously bizarre year with the pandemic coming in. And then one thing that we know about behavior during our return from the shutdown and then coming back when we were in hybrid, behaviors kind of disappeared. We had almost no behavioral issues when they were coming 2 days. And then even when we moved to the 4-day with the Wednesdays virtual, there was something about that. It just really had a dampening effect on behaviors. If it was the break in the middle of the week or whatever it was, that was kind of maybe an unexpected positive of that. I mean, it's logical, I guess we could say. You got more of a break, there's less opportunity, I guess, to misbehave because you're not there as much. But as soon as we came back 5, we started seeing behaviors spike up again.
You might want to ask Candace if she can pull by date range.
Yeah.
I don't know last year how well she can, but that last however long it was that we were in 5 days last year,
Yeah.
post spring break maybe.
Yeah, for middle and high school, because we pushed the middle school in, I think it was in November, right when, then late October, and then we hit that November surge, and then we had to go back, and so it was really more January, late January, probably, I think it was right about the start of the
Maybe
semester
semester,
too.
yeah.
Where I think we brought, that was ACE in the high school, I think 4, and we had the elementaries full 5. Anyway, but those are all things that you have to consider when you're looking at that information.
Thank you.
Yep.
So let's just follow on the strategic planning activities. So give us an update, Mike. What's next with the data that's been collected here then?
Yeah, so I really, and when I acknowledge Julie did a great job helping consolidate this information and put it in a useful format. I wanted to make sure you had that to review it so you could get some summary of this. I think whenever we have these kinds of events, so many aspects of it are helpful. Being in those rooms and hearing the conversation really provides great context and meaning to something like this that summarizes kind of, things that were put on lists and what did people mean by those things. The biggest value tends to be finding patterns and things that are most common, but sometimes you also hear that kind of outlier thing. That's something that we should pay attention to. But I really like having this based on perspective and role to see what's important to students versus what's important to parents or community members and staff. The things that jumped out to me, again, that I'm sure you see when you look at it, is mental health is a major concern that really is at the very top of the list. Concerns about our staff. Our staff is one of the things that is acknowledged as a big strength. Worrying about staffing shortages, continuing to be able to recruit good people, to stay staffed at a time where positions can be harder and harder to fill, are things that jump out. There's pieces there in closing gaps, teacher burnout. Again, it goes back to staff. One of the things, maybe in Danielle's area, we heard a lot about some balance with the digital and kind of paper, more traditional kinds of resources. I think we heard that kind of across from some students as well in some of the rooms I was in about technology uses. Are we on screens too much? Which is not a simple thing to address. It can be because you got different subjects and different teachers and practices and how they approach it. But that certainly is a theme that came out, and it showed in the summary data, and it was certainly conversations that I heard. WCTC partnerships continue to be seen as an opportunity, teaching kids life skills. I've heard that oftentimes from students in a lot of strategic planning sessions. When we do like the reality store stuff, and where kids come in and have to learn how to, write checks and pay bills and pay taxes and learn those things, are things that we do hear from students. So we hear those pieces. So to Steve's question, what do we do with it next? The next big step is Leadership Week, which is when the admin team, we spend 4 days together doing a variety of things. Danielle spends a lot of time planning that. But we take all this information, we do a debrief on, again, remember, so we just wrapped up year 1 of tactical planning. And so we'll debrief on our progress from those year 1 tactical plans. We go into Leadership Week, all those process owners will have drafts of their year 2 tactical plans. All of this data, as well as, the employee engagement surveys, the parent surveys, all those things are information we look at. Does that find its way into some aspect of an action plan? Maybe. Does it give us other things that maybe buildings are going to be working on or have a strategy on potentially? So we spend that time kind of debriefing and looking at this information. So for example, mental health is part of Tony's strategy area. So does this continue to build into that? Or does it influence systems that we already have, like when we talk about staffing, right? We know we've added multiple mental health related positions over the last 5 years. So it can influence things that are existing processes. It could find its way into an action plan of a goal area. So I just think it was really important that you got to see a summary of what we talked about.
Great. I do think, just one more last observation from me, I do think there were a couple of things related to policy. So those who are members of the policy committee might want to look at some of those comments and evaluate whether or not we have a policy gap area or we need to address anything in policy as a board. Because there were 2 specific things that were student related, student identified related to policy in there. So we can bring that up into a future policy committee meeting and talk about that as a group. Anything else on the strategic planning night, the notes that came out, the next steps related to strategic planning? And since there's no one here, I assume there's no comments from citizens? Right. I think we're to the end of our meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight.